to everything that I learned was as working as a tech and with my amazing mentors, like my bosses, doctors that I work for in Colorado, who were amazing. And without them, I would not be able to pass these tests, like for real. So I think it's really important to always take care of vet students or even people like me from other countries, and even newly grad vets that are curious, interested, or whatever, like they just want help.
Hi, guys, and welcome to the House Call Vet Cafe podcast. I'm Dr. Eve Harrison. I'm a full-time integrative concierge house call veterinarian in Los Angeles, and I help other vets to build their unique mobile practices on their terms. This podcast is for and by house call and mobile veterinarians, so it is meant to give our community a platform to connect, to share our stories, to lift each other up, and to support each other. Most of us work solo as lone wolves, right? So for me, it's been really powerful to be able to physically hear the voices of my colleagues from all over the world and to get a chance to feel that we truly are part of a community of very real other human beings who get it. While you may be alone in that little bubble of your own vehicle when you're on the road seeing patients, I welcome you to join our community by tuning into our own podcast when you're on your way to your next house call. Whether you're a super experienced house call vet with 30 years of experience, you're a brand new prospective house call vet just looking to get started, or you're house call curious, there will be something for you in this podcast. Each episode, you will hear interviews from other mobile veterinarians just like yourself who are doing unique and innovative things, vets who are sharing their stories, their struggles and challenges, and you can also look forward to hearing valuable information and perspectives from specialists and experts outside of our micro niche. And finally, if becoming a house call veterinarian is something that you've been thinking about exploring, or you're looking for some extra support getting your own mobile practice to feel more profitable and sustainable for you, check out the information in the show notes about my course and our above and beyond supportive private community for members only, plus our monthly group coaching sessions within the House Call Vet Academy. You can also check out my free public Facebook group, which is also called the House Call Vet Cafe, the same name as this podcast, and which is a warm and cozy community for mobile vets to support each other in professional and personal development, in creative entrepreneurship, and in friendship. So thank you guys for spending time with me today. Let's dive into the episode.
If you're looking for help with ultrasound scanning, check out First Opinion Veterinary Ultrasound for independent machine reviews and online and in-person teaching options. FOVU, simplifying ultrasound.
All right, everyone. We have a really special guest today. We have Dr. Daniela Castillo. She is a Mexican veterinarian born and raised in Oaxaca, Mexico, and she is very passionate about animal rights, wildlife, and environmentalism. She is the perfect activist. Her dream as a child was always to help animals with her own hands. She was the valedictorian of her class. She graduated with a veterinary medicine degree from Universidad Veracruzana. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
Which was a production farmed focused school. She graduated in 2008, so she saw farm production up close and personal. Thinking she wanted to specialize in zoo medicine, she completed a 1-year internship in a government-funded zoo in Veracruz City. After seeing the reality of zoo animals, her heart was broken and she decided to take a break from veterinary medicine to pursue an environmental degree. She obtained a full scholarship from the Mexican government to pursue a master's degree in wildlife conservation at Macquarie University in Sydney, Australia. So cool. And did I pronounce that right too, Macquarie?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're asking the worst person how to pronounce something.
Well, you know the name, you know the pronunciation of the schools you went to.
Only Veracruzana.
Veracruzana. In March 2011, she started volunteering at St. Francis Wildlife Association, a wildlife rehab center in Quincy, Florida. Thanks to her dedication and academic qualifications, she became the director and licensed wildlife rehabilitator in charge for 9 months. Almost 4 years of hard work later and studying as a veterinary technician in the U.S., in April of 2016, Daniela became a licensed veterinarian in the state of California. Whoop, whoop! So since becoming a veterinarian, she's previously worked in ER, she's worked in general practice, and she currently is a house call vet, and she runs her house call practice in the Los Angeles area, Castillo Animal Vegan Veterinarian. And she also works performing high volume high quality spay and neuter surgeries and practicing shelter medicine for several nonprofit organizations. And she also has quite a bit of experience working with sanctuary farm animals in the San Fernando Valley. So, welcome, Daniela. I'm so excited to have you here. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing really good. I'm relaxing after work today, and I'm very happy to be here.
I'm happy you're here too. Can you tell me when you're on the way to seeing your patients on a house call basis, what is your favorite snack?
Lately, it's been this vegan snack called Fruits Bowl, and they're made of dates, peanuts, and coconut, and they have a soft center made of hazelnut or lemon pie, and they're delicious and very healthy.
Pie, that sounds so good.
Mhm.
I need to hit you up on some of those. That sounds really delicious. So, I see you're sipping on something. What are you sipping right now?
It is coffee mezcal with some Oatly and ice.
Oh my god, that sounds delicious.
Really good.
I need one of those. That sounds so good. So, can you tell me a little bit about how you became a house call vet and what your journey was like towards becoming a house call vet?
So it actually all started in the beginning of the pandemic. All my jobs basically fired me. I was working as a contractor doing surgeries for about six nonprofit organizations around LA. So I was doing well, it's high volume, high quality spay and neuter surgeries, but I'm just gonna call it a spay and neuter surgeries.
Sure.
It's just such a long name. And everybody closed because we were competing with PPE and human medicine and, blah, blah, blah. So I lost all my jobs. And for 2 months, I was completely unemployed. And so I kind of started thinking, I need to do something more independent. Like, if this keeps going longer, then what am I going to do for work? I cannot take a full time job on an emergency with the pandemic. Or, any private practice, anything like that. I just couldn't. So I started thinking about it. And I think September is when I decided, okay, I'm going to do it. And I told my husband, and I started with my website and I started buying stuff. Big mistake, but I'll get to there. And I set up myself that I was gonna open for business on January 1st, 2021, and I did. So I'm still doing 3 days of surgery a week. So that's kind of like my main income. And I will say I have anywhere from 1 to 4 house call appointments a week. And I try to take really well care of my current clients. I'm still working on my acupuncture certification. That's still on the work.
Yeah.
And I actually just decided that I'm going to ask for a loan to get mobile x-rays and mobile anesthesia. So I'm going to grow to see more like small ruminants and more cases like that I always need x-rays or prepare for x-rays.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I'm going to do that. So
Oh, that's
I'm
fantastic.
going to grow my business.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love it. And so how has it been since you opened the practice? What's the journey been like? Like, let me hear a little bit more about that process.
So I made a huge mistake of buying a huge inventory, right? So in my, crazy head of perfectionist, whatever you call it,
Yeah, you're a perfectionist. Yeah.
I need to have one bottle of each medication, almost like the alphabet.
Yeah.
I know. I started buying a bunch of stuff. I opened a business. I started appointments, and then I think I met you by April, and that's when I signed up for the course. And then I started, seeing things that I already kind of like messed up, but it
Oh,
really, really helped me with boundaries and my super amazing. How do we call it? I don't know what the nice word, like a filter for clients.
the selection process. Yeah.
Yes, because this is a big city and it's kind of like the same way we want to get out of these crazy hospitals with like 30 patients a day and these people that we don't choose to work with. With you made me realize like I want this specific, like if I'm going to give my 150%, because I do,
You do.
it has to be with people that really, really, really want to work with me, in
Yeah.
any way. So you helped me a lot. Like I have to say, your course, was, and I told you before, but it was just worth it with the amazing written information that I got from you to kind of like make my process. That helped me a lot. And, it's not like I have like crazy business, like maybe other house call beds, but I'm very happy with the pace and the way I've been growing. I added my online store, which it was in the beginning of this year. So last year I went through my inventory. So by the way, I've been solo, like I do everything by myself. I schedule my appointments, I do my screening. I mostly don't talk to people because of my accent. I just get really, I don't know. I feel like people are not going to understand me and it's hard to
Yeah.
understand me sometimes. So I just want to do everything written.
Hmm.
And then I do my own everything. And then I show up by myself and somehow I do, you know, mini punch roll by myself too. So I've been doing that.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And thanks to the cozy wrap, it's amazing. And the idea of the e-collar, I mean, I do blood runs on cats by myself all the time.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I love that. And yeah, so then I've been adding little things like the ultrasound, which by the way, well, the little butterfly, which is not the best quality, but I do have to say this experience that I had on Monday, which was like not very nice for me. I was seeing this dog for a sedation, blood drawn, and urinalysis because he was leaking urine and he had history of stones, blah, blah, blah. I put my probe on his abdomen, my butterfly, and I see this huge tumor, like
Oh,
cavitated. And I even palpated it before I knew there was something wrong there. And it was in the place. I mean, I'm not an expert with ultrasound by any means, but I know how to use it for things like that. And if I didn't have it, I wouldn't be able to tell more to this guardian. And he decided right there that he just wanted to let him go because this dog was very, very, very reactive. Like nobody wanted to see him. So it's not like you can actually touch him when he's not sedated. So it was like that bad. So yeah, and she was very old. So it was, but I was like, I don't like euthanasia. So it was kind of like a non-plan, but at the same time, I was just telling myself, no, 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 he needs to go. Like there's no way he's gonna, I mean, he's suffering. How can you be okay with that? But it was like, oh wow, like I'm so glad I had this tool with me,
mm-hmm.
because
Very cool.
I wouldn't be able to just, I don't know. He couldn't have x-rays. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up also because like you, I kind of go through phases where I don't do euthanasia at all. Not that I don't believe in it, but for me, it's not for me. And so I'm curious. I mean, I have my own path and I know how I deal with it. How have you handled that in cases where your patient wants euthanasia or they want something that you don't provide? What do you do?
So in my website, I say that I don't provide euthanasia for first time clients. And I say no exception. When I get contact, I say, I'm so sorry. I'm not offering this service and I'm not even equipped to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just send them the link of my favorite vet for that around here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can say her name. I guess it's okay, but she's awesome.
Yeah.
Dr. Letty Gonzalez, she was amazing with my own baby Morphe, as you know. So I was like, oh, wow. She actually made me think about doing more euthanasias because it was such a good experience with her. But then after I was like, no, 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 I cannot do it. I just
Yeah.
can't. But I've done a few like from the beginning of the year because I do a little special something for each one. So I have one of each in my like little jar.
Mm-hmm.
So if they are my current patients, like I've been in their journey, I always say yes and I help them. And I try to be, do the best that I can, but it's hard.
Yeah. I know it. So thank you for sharing that with me. And I wanted to explore a couple other things that are really interesting about you. So you're from Mexico, you're trained in Mexico, and I'm really curious to hear about your experience of becoming a vet in Oaxaca and then becoming a vet in the US. And I know we've kind of talked about this before, and I find your story to be really compelling, really interesting. And some of the challenges that you've faced on that journey, I know you've faced a lot of challenges and you continue to. So I'd love to hear about that process a little bit more.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. So I actually went to vet school first in a state named Puebla for a year and I didn't like it. And then I moved to the state of Veracruz. So Oaxaca is maybe 8 hours away from Veracruz. So I moved there and out of the 27 vet schools in the US, there's only a few more AVMA accredited. The only one in Mexico, it's in Mexico City called UNAM, which is not the one that I went. So because it was not AVMA accredited, I had to go through the Educational Commission for Veterinary Foreign Graduates, which is a certification program from the AVMA. And to me, it took me 4 years total since I enrolled to the time that I actually got my license. But I know people from other countries that got it, in shorter time or longer time. So it depends on your, pace. So the first step is to enroll with the program so you can provide proof of graduation and they can actually verify with the college that you went to vet school. So that can take a little while depending on which vet school and their level of response, to like an English document too. And then the English test, which took me 3 times to pass because I couldn't pass the writing and it was just different levels on different, like speaking, writing, like skills. So the writing was definitely not my forte and it's still not. And the basic and clinical veterinary science examination, which is like a smaller NABLE. So it's like a written test. And that one, I failed it twice. So the third time I was like, okay, if I don't pass it, I'm just packing all my stuff. I'm going back to Mexico. And then I pass it. I was like, oh, okay. So then the next step was to pass the NAVLE. So I gave myself like 6 months. Am I pronouncing it right? The North American veterinary,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yep.
I gave myself a lot of time and I passed the first time. So that was huge. And then I had a 3 days hands-on clinical veterinary medical skills in Las Vegas at what it used to be the Oquendo Center, and now it's the Viticus Group. So they have this awesome, just everything to pass, equine, ruminants, small animals, surgery, anesthesia, X-rays, and all that, all that stuff that I don't even remember. So, and then I finished on April of 2016, I finally got licensed in California on top of the California requirement that I didn't have in Colorado when I live in Colorado. So, yeah, it was fair. I will say it's a really fair process. It was really hard, but I mean, I could talk about probably an hour of the difference between veterinary education in Mexico and in the US. It's like day and night. Like, say we were accepted 500 people when I started vet school, like the year that I started, and we only graduated 180 that year in 5 years. And you guys, it's really hard. Oh, we in Mexico can go to vet school right after high school. I didn't. I just did other stuff with my life. But most of my classmates were really young kids that just got out of their house and they just wanted to get, party and drunk. And I was like, no, I just want to study. Like, that's how I got a scholarship to study at UGA for 1 semester. And I didn't even study at the vet school at UGA. They didn't accept me, but instead they led me to classes of animal science. Like I took nutrition, I think, and ruminant science. So it's a huge difference. So I still have the imposter syndrome, or how do you call it?
Yeah.
I still inside, I'm always thinking like, oh, my education was so bad. It was mostly farm animals and the kind of old medicine that we practiced here in the US maybe 50 years ago with even farm animals. That's kind of like the farm medicine that I learned, and almost nothing dogs and cats. So everything that I learned was as working as a tech and with my amazing mentors, like my bosses, doctors that I worked for in Colorado, who were amazing. And without them, I would not be able to pass these tests, like for real. So I think it's really important to always take care of vet students or even people like me from other countries, and even newly grad vets that are curious, interested, or whatever, like they just want help but yeah. And I mean, I always told myself with the experiences that I had working as a tech for some doctors that I always want to remain humble. Like, I don't want my head to get, and I always ask people to call me Daniela. Like, I mean, all the places that I work is mostly, I don't really deal with a lot of clients. It's mostly with my staff doing surgeries and that's it. And everybody calls me Daniela. Like, I mean, if they say sometimes Castillo, I would not even like listen because I'm used to be called Daniela and I like that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanna be I mean, in these times I just want people to feel related to me. Like, just we're all, the same. We have different skills and different accents and nationalities and, economic levels, but we are suffering something, we're all going through something.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that story, and I always appreciate your humility and openness and vulnerability, honesty, all of that. I've always been very impressed with that when I hear you tell your story. And you told me about times that you dealt with racism and difficulty with people who just were either made assumptions or were just assholes. I would love to hear if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about your experiences with that as a veterinarian.
Um, Probably the most repetitive experience that I keep getting in California, and it just happened. Maybe it was working in a hospital really close from my home. Actually, people see me, with my stethoscope. They're told that I'm the doctor, and I hear them say, "Oh, I want a white doctor," or "I want the white doctor instead." And honestly, like I don't even get offended. Like racism is so ingrained in so many people. Like, I mean, I feel like at some point everybody's racist in a way you just don't realize. I mean, that was like super direct and obvious. And yeah, I'm not gonna get into like politics, but it's the kind of like the doctor who told me we were doing surgery together and he was wearing the red cap. And it was barely starting this thing, and I read Make America Great Again. And I was like, but America is great already. Like I said that, but I didn't know anything about nothing, right? And he just got really like weird. And then, oh, you Mexicans should go back to your country. I was like, okay.
Wow.
And then it got quiet and awkward, and we just finished surgery. And I never saw this doctor ever again because I never wanted to come back there again. It feels weird for people to tell you to go back. It was very hard for me to move here. I worked really, really hard on my accreditation. And yeah, like I choose to be here. Obviously, if I was in my country, I wouldn't be making this much money. I probably couldn't survive as a vegan vet. Like, I mean, nobody cares there. I mean, I don't know. And it's like I work really hard, to earn my place here.
Yeah, that's shocking. I mean, it's not shocking at the same time. Like you said, it's like completely ingrained in the culture and it's not a surprise, but like I feel like I see subtle racism all the time. I don't in my experience, well, I mean, who am I to talk, but I haven't seen that blatant overt experience of like straight racism, like straight to your face like they did. Like it's like what the like, my god. I mean, I know your experience is not unique, and I'm sorry for that, I'm just like, I wish it weren't that way, but I think it's really important for people to hear these stories, that this is every day for you, or, it's not that big of a deal to you anymore because it happens so often.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. But I acknowledge that some people get it worse. Like I've been to, these multicultural like meetups or whatever, and other people have worse experiences, and animals have it worse. So I try to think about animals living in this moment, like a horrible life. It's like a person doesn't want me as their doctor. They're lost, right?
They're lost.
Whatever. Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
Good.
right.
Yeah, tell me now so I can get you out of my life. So,
I don't care.
yeah, that brings me to my next question. I know you're really, really passionate about veganism, and I know that for you, we've talked also about, and I've read an article that you wrote also, which I love, that almost kinda ties, well, not even almost, but it actually ties your experience of being treated the way you've been treated to your concern and care for animals, and that kind of has linked into why you're vegan for the animals. Can you tell me a little bit more about what veganism means to you as a veterinarian?
Yes, yes, yes. Thanks for asking.
Obviously.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
So,
let's hear it. What do you have
so
tattooed on you? You have vegan tattooed on, like,
I have
every leg?
vegan tattoo on my body. I don't know, like 3 times or something.
Let's hear it.
So this might be the experience with a lot of it, but I really felt connected to animals when I was like, 5 or something. And I just always wanted to help them with my own hands. And it just became natural to me to like in my head that eventually stop consuming something that was hurting something that I love so much. So when I was 15, I told my parents I don't want to eat my patients anymore. So I turned pesco vegetarian. They wouldn't let me go vegetarian or vegan. They thought I was gonna die, but they support me because they've always supported every one of my crazy dreams and goals or whatever. So then I went to vet school. I was vegetarian. And then in my master's degree, I was giving a presentation about I chose the topic of animal rights. And I was talking about a specific case of the dairy cow, how we artificially inseminate her every year, get her baby, milk her out, do the same process again until the yield of milk is too low for the production that we just decide to let her, slaughterhouse, and then she becomes meat. So then at the end, the professor, this was a philosophical, it was a attitudes to the environment. So like a philosophical position in the environment. And he asked, "So you're vegan?" And I said, "No, I'm vegetarian." And he said in front of 40 people, "Well, then you're a hypocrite because, you have no right to talk about the rights of cows when you're still supporting their slavery and everything that you basically talk about." And I was like, I want to hide my head in a hole and never, I was so embarrassed. And even then, it's not like I went cold turkey. I started the process of convincing myself I need to go vegan because if I want to keep talking about animals' rights and how much I love animals, it only makes sense to be aligned, and it's like I've always thought about it, and I feel like a lot of people always thinks about it, but you never really take the action. Like, okay, I'm gonna start, and I tell myself I'm always like that. Like I give myself a deadline, so I do everything before I can, and then on December 1st of 2010, I became vegan. That's when I came back to the U.S. And yeah, that's how it started. And so veganism or the animal rights idea, it's based on the premise that animals are not here for us to use. And the same way that words like racism and sexism and racism, they all originate from basically a group of individuals who believe that they are superior to another group that they believe are inferior. So, like 100 years or whatever, more than that, white people thought that black people were inferior and monsters and slaves and all these things. And a group of people gathered and fought and got the right. I mean, we still have a lot of racism, but it happened in history, some sort of revolution slash, movement, social movement. And then it happened with women. Men didn't consider women the same. And a lot of philosophers and thinkers of today think and consider animal rights movement as the next social movement of our times.
Mm.
And I started reading, Peter Singer, Tom Regan, this other Tom. And when I was doing my master's, because I started getting into that, but obviously I would probably never read about it before. And I feel like when I go to conferences, which I've tried to go to a lot of them,
Mhm.
and the topic of welfare and animal rights come, the
Mhm.
speaker usually, if not every single, no, I would say every single time, they talk about welfare as, oh, yeah, this is what we want, treat animals better. And the animal rights, this is just an extreme movement that is being, run by these crazies called vegans. And then at the end, I'm like shaking, right? But I need to say it. Hey, guess what? There's like crazy in the veterinary field here too, because I am a veterinarian and I'm also a vegan and I'm also an animal rights activist. So I don't think
Yeah.
that it's fair for you to like label us this way. And first of all, it's not like we're crazy. All we're fighting for is for the simple right of an animal to not suffer unnecessary pain, slavery, mutilations, and unnecessary death. Like this is 2022.
Yeah.
Okay. We
Yeah.
have the best technology possible that we could ever imagine to create this amazing plant foods substitute for anything that you can imagine. I mean, we live in Los Angeles. People in Los Angeles that don't know anything about veganism, no, even whatever you are, go to download Happy Cow and you can find any vegan restaurant just about anywhere in the world. Like I use it every time that I travel and I find something. So it's not impossible. And people is like, oh, but I can never give up cheese or eggs or this or that, or it's so difficult. But it's difficult when you focus on yourself. It's hard because you're thinking about me, my taste buds. But to think about the animal that is actually suffering like an entire life for 5 minutes of your pleasure. And, people tell me, veterinarians tell me it's a personal choice. But hey, if you want to wear some pink jeans, it's your personal choice. If you want to date another girl, it's your personal choice. If you want to shave your head, it's your personal choice, Eve. I'm all about it. But if your choice hurts somebody, especially somebody so important for me, Daniela, like, which is all animals are my friends and my family, and you tell me that it's your personal choice, it's like, no, it's not, because it is actually making these animals go through a horrible lives of these, we veterinarians know like what we do to these animals. We cut their testicles with no anesthesia. We cut their tails, we clip their teeth, and then we their ears. It's, I mean, we wouldn't do that to like a companion pet or a cat or a dog, right? Like if we do that to a dog, we will lose our license.
Right.
And more and more people are having companion animals, pigs. So I just have the hope that people would just look at their eyes, veterinarians, people, anybody, look at their eyes and connect with animals like we used to in the past that we were kids. We were born with no judgments, with no racism, with no speciesism. It's called speciesism, the word that I was explaining you.
Mhm.
With the culture and the environment and our parents are the ones that are start filling our heads up with these ideas and traditions, and you have to do, you have to eat this, you have to do that. It's no, you don't have to do any of that. You choose, and you have an option or a power of choosing something that is not going to cause violence 3 times a day.
Mhm.
3 times a day. So, like, if you don't want to go full, then just choose 1 out of 2 or 2 out of 3, and then eventually, it's just kind of like a path that it just you feel better, you feel healthy, you just start thinking more, and it's almost like your mind starts opening more to hear more and more of these horrible things that we do to animals that even as veterinarians we don't even know. You have no idea how many people have contacted me about the article that I wrote for Ben about the ventilation shutdown depopulation.
Mhm.
People that I worked before and they still had my phone. They texted me. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. They're like, I read your article in Ben. I had no idea. I signed your petition. Thank you. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad. I was so afraid of publishing because of my vulnerability, like
Yeah.
I can see it's a topic that caused defensiveness and
Very much so.
because it's I don't know. My only hope is that veterinarians, we know animals from nose to tail, from
Mhm.
inside out. If we veterinarians don't speak up for animals, then who else is going to speak up for animals? I mean, yes, there are animal rights activists that are changing the world.
Yeah.
It's true. But instead of seeing them as enemies, we should maybe listen to them, like what are they talking about? Maybe they're right. Maybe we don't need fur. Maybe we don't need hunting. Maybe we don't need to eat meat every single day. It's just, I don't know if this topic, as you can see, it's
Yeah.
the center of my life. And yeah, I guess I just think about this all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very moving to see your passion, and I love everything that you've shared, and the way that you think about it, and even, if someone's interested in becoming a vegan, start slow and, gradually work your way up, and, just a kind of a mindset shift as well. Like, rather than thinking about your taste buds, you think about the experience of the animals. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And you kind of touched a little bit on some of the antagonism that you faced, not only from a racial perspective, but in terms of your beliefs about veganism. And I know just before we got on the call, you were telling me about you were at a conference, you had a sign that you were holding, and some guy came. And can you want to tell me the story? Would you tell me the story? It's another veterinarian.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was another veterinarian. And I feel really sad telling this story that, I mean, not that I don't want to share it. It's fine. I mean, somebody else shared on their media. I was doing activism for the BSD issue and I printed my own banner just as an individual that said something like, as a vegan veterinarian, I believe animals are more than shoes, a hamburger, or entertainment. I'm here to speak up for all my patients and please speak against AVMA ventilation shutdown or something like that. And and a wide walkway.
Mhm.
And I just feel like somebody hitting me, passing by with their elbow. And then I was like, excuse me? And he turns around and says, get out of the way. and keeps walking. So he was crossing the street. So I had like a second myself to like I could have just, cross the street myself. But it's the kind of things that happen and you don't really react until like an hour later, you're like, I should have said this or I should have said that. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad my reaction is never like I just stood like frozen, like,
Yeah.
oh, like I wanna cry. But
Yeah.
I shouldn't be like, hey, excuse me, this is the way you want to treat a colleague, woman, Latina. Like, I'm gonna cry. Like, I'm gonna be on fire. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, he actually put his hands on he touched you and he
Yes,
violently,
yes.
that's absolutely unacceptable.
I was so upset that he touched me, that he like actually pushed me, with his elbow. And I was so upset that he didn't apologize and he actually say, get out of the way, because that was absolutely bad, malicious intentions. And I don't know if he saw the sign or the protest, because he saw it was a protest.
Mhm.
So even though I wasn't part of the group that was protesting there, I was protesting the same thing basically. But I don't know if this man saw, I don't know what was he thinking to treat me this way. I had my AVMA pack in my like backpack, so
Mhm.
it's what I'm saying? Like I don't understand the thinking behind, and I was hoping that I would recognize him and see him again and like confront him and be like, excuse me, like why did you push me or something, which I probably would, you know, pee my pants before I do it. But I was thinking about it.
I could see you making that guy wish you were never born. I'm sure you wouldn't pee in your pants. I'm so sorry that happened to you. And, just even if we believe different things, like another colleague, an older white man, I think you had said literally pushing a woman, a Latina woman, expressing herself peacefully with a sign, like unbelievable, unbelievable that
Unbelievable. Yeah.
the things that, you know, I'm just so sorry that happened to you.
I will say it was a mixed experience at the
Yeah.
conference. As an animal rights vegan veterinarian, I definitely did not feel welcome, but I did, met and connected with other similar minds, other vegans for sure. So yeah, it was sad, I spent a lot of money going and it was just not there were no vegan options. I mean, other than fruit, obviously, which I mean, I eat fruit all the time, but it would be nice to have some like vegan sausage or something that I know that it wasn't done with butter or something, and it's just, of course, I will bring the conversation as much as I could. There were a bunch of diversity and inclusion like talks.
Diversity and inclusion.
Yes, they were a lot, and I went to maybe 1 or 2, and, I definitely felt identified with what everybody else was saying they go through, and then I also brought up something that a lot of us don't think about it, but, like, as veterinarians supporting an industry like that, like the pork and the poultry industry, the beef industry, it's also a little bit, in a way, is like racist because guess who is working in those industries? It's honestly, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people like illegal that nobody else wants to do these jobs in this slaughterhouse and these farms. When I lived in Georgia, I knew of illegal workers doing these long shifts, not allowed to even take bathroom breaks. And if they had injuries with the, machinery or whatever, they don't have it's a really bad position for illegals because they do want to make money and work whatever, but and also all these farms and their waste are always around these places where there's people with really, really low income. So of course it's not the rich people that are buying the meat that live around these plants. I mean, there's been studies of like diseases that these people around have, like, lung disease or something like that because of all the waste in the air. And we're just killing literally our beautiful planet, our beautiful wild animals and species just because of layer of cells in our tongues.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this and for sharing your way of thinking about it and your experiences as well. I think it's really meaningful and important for your voice to be heard. And I'm, happy to have you here on this platform sharing these ideas and your experiences and, what you've been through. And before we close up, I wanted to just ask you, do you have any tips or advice, maybe top tips advice to share with other house call vets that might be listening to this episode, whether it has to do with veganism, whether it has to do with starting a practice or running your practice or anything, anything on your mind?
I would say the first is, and she's not giving me anything, but I will say sign up for Eve's course.
Oh,
No, I seriously, it helped me so much. It was just what I needed, but I wish that I mean, it still helped me a lot and my business is still the way it is, because of you, but it helped me a ton, honestly. Like it's like a guide, how to do it legally, many ways. If I read that before, I wouldn't like waste about 7K in medication because I didn't know you. And
oh, I know. My friend, I was in the same boat. That's why that why
yeah. I
that's
just
why.
didn't do it on time, but that's a huge lesson, like I want to have a little bit of everything, man. It's not. So don't have that. And my second one is to please try veganism and the benefits and just read about it. And there's an app called Happy Cow that come and you can sign up anywhere you are in the world and it will tell you vegan restaurants or vegan friendly. You can contact me on my website if you have any questions or if you want to like just discuss any ideas. I mean, people always have these questions about it because you're trying to convince yourself one way or the other. I know conversations help me a lot with people.
Mhm.
So I'm always here to talk to people about veganism and, do a self-examination and read about the damages of agriculture and all the activities involved, like the watering of the plants that animals eat, transportation, the methane gas, the dead ocean zones that they cause, all the wildlife habitat that we are destroying because we need more and more and more. I mean, it's all connected. Like we are all connected. So like if we kill the world, we kill ourselves. So I feel like we are in like a moment of kind of like committing suicide as a race. Like we're just like heading ourselves that way. And there's so many things that we can do as individuals. We cannot blame the government or organizations. It starts with you. And we talk about veganism and veterinary medicine animal rights, but I am very passionate about the environment. I always ask people to like make their own beverages and don't go to Starbucks, once a day, maybe just do it twice a week or something because it's like one cup of plastic, but it's like 9 billions of hands with a cup of plastic. Like we're just like so many humans and everybody's like, it's just, one cup of plastic or one bottle of water or, you know, one. It's
Mhm.
a lot. And I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. And on the subject of beverages, since we're in the House Call Vet Academy / wine bar / mezcal bar, what is your favorite beverage? Whether it's coffee, tea, or booze, or what is it that
Uh,
you drink?
okay. If number one will be beer, but I cannot
Okay.
drink beer like all day, right? I would say then second is coffee, and it's a homemade coffee. It has to be. I absolutely do not contribute or support Starbucks in any way. Well, maybe when I'm traveling, and it's just that the plastic makes me crazy. So I have my, refillable water and my refillable coffee with me like at all times.
Love it.
And at night, I like mezcal a lot. Obviously, I'm from Oaxaca. I
Mhm.
really enjoy good mezcal and yeah, and beer.
You're like, did I say
I
beer?
don't,
Beer. Yeah. Got it. And it's true that all Mexican beer is vegan, is that right?
yes, yes. As
Awesome.
far as I know, according to barnivore.com, yeah.
Awesome. Daniela, it's been so great having you on the show. Thank you so much for your time and your passion and vulnerability and your openness. And I'm just so excited that we can share your experiences and your perspective here on the show today. So thanks again. And
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity to speak up for animals and
yeah.
veganism, and it's my personal agenda.
Really?
I don't sell anything. I don't make any money with anything, like, but I only promote veganism, like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's from the heart. It really
Yeah.
is.
Mhm.
Okay, my friend, I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I love you.
I love you too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the House Call Vet Cafe. If you enjoyed this episode, then hit the subscribe or follow button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never have to miss an episode. This podcast is made specifically for you, so don't be shy if you'd like to reach out and let me know your thoughts on this episode. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as the House Call Vet Academy, where I also share more valuable content. If you're interested in learning more about consulting for House Call Vets or the House Call Vet Academy online course and community, please click on the link in the show notes. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I can't wait for you to join us for our next episode of the House Call Vet Cafe.